So I've been trying to figure out. All right, so I've been wondering. All right, I got really strong coffee, and I have really strong weed, and I have a lot of work to do on Soul Caliber. So this is what's going on today. I have to make a playlist for Soul Caliber. I'm also writing Soul Caliber. A few things we have to talk about, a few fundamental fighting things we have to talk about. And so this is what's happening. Right now it's the usual time. 6 in the morning, 6:05 to be exact. And so this is what's happening. All right. So this is Day Caliber episode 9. And in this one, what's happening and what we're going to be talking about what's happening is I'm basically going through the process of learning Soul Calibur entirely. And I'm going through all the stages of being a beginner to being, the very best. And at this stage, I'm in the early stages. I'm at the point where I'm still learning the game entirely. Or better yet, I'm still learning the game basically. So I'm just playing arcade mode. However, while I'm doing this, I'm also talking about like fundamental basic fighting understanding in this sort of series called Day Caliber. See, here's the thing about Soul Calibur. In order to really play it, you need, for music wise, you need to have more somber. You need to have more somber, methodical, calming, easy RPG music in order to truly play it. So I have to basically make this playlist. So this is another thing that's happening. Also, I'm also writing Soul Calibur, and this is another thing. So that's basically what's happening. And what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about the types of fighting game players, and from that point on, it's going to go into more of a freestyle discussion. But why is this overall important? Well, as the thing is this, becoming, the very best however you interpret it, is it's an experience that's never been really taught to anyone. Most people don't really know about it. Most people don't really understand these intricacies of fighting. These are things that a lot of people understand when they get to the other side, but it's like once you get to the other side, you're so caught up in so much more that it's like certain variables get lost over time, maybe through the environment. A lot of other people, maybe they're not able to explain this type of stuff, whatever it may be. It all collectively creates an overall philosophy, and all of this information is supportive of it, and it strengthens the overall philosophy. So, furthermore, this is like not this is me. I've gone through these stages throughout my life, throughout fighting games, throughout various stages of my life, and so by also explaining the small intricacies of it, especially like on a very basic fundamental fighting level, it helps people understand how to truly fight, but then it also helps me put together the overall philosophy in a more tangible way. And it's just a lost art form that to this day is like it's exploited because no one really knows what it is. It's almost like a secret. So it's like I'm kind of like sharing like secret fighting wisdom throughout the whole entire process, but I'm sharing it from an overarching perspective, and I'm also going through these stages simultaneously while I'm sharing this information. Some people know what I'm talking about, and so my explanation of what I'm saying, they're able to make sense of it. Most people, maybe they're not able to make sense of it. But it's cool because that's basically kind of also what this process is about. Because by me like explaining it in this sort of rough draft, sort of unorthodox, almost rambling fashion, it helps me refine my thoughts so that it can be explained even better in the future. But we all gotta start somewhere, and we all gotta start somehow, and this is just basically where we're at this point. But believe it or not, a lot of the information that I share is very powerful to the point where a lot of it is some of it a lot of my most powerful information has been censored. Like entire sections of videos gone because a lot of this stuff, some of this stuff is like transdimensional. A lot of it is transdimensional. I'm realizing because of just the way things are. But this is basically where we're at, and and so when I do day caliber, what I basically do is I basically speak on like the most fundamental level of fighting because in a lot of ways, Soul Calibur for a fighting game and just to fighting and for what it's worth is very much a fundamental fighting game. You know, Soul Calibur is like it's like fundamentals and then super competitive fundamentals. over time, with them adding combos and stuff like that, and them adding, more common, we'll just say action elements, it's sort of taken on more. It's taken on more sort of like typical repetitive fashion of nature of fighting games. It's almost like it sort of gets into that sort of arcadey sort of casino fashion that it seems to have become nowadays. It's more so like that now, more so than it's ever been. However, because it's Soul Calibur, it still stays really true to fundamentals. So, it's kind of like a it's kind of like a theme to these series of videos. It's like Soul Calibur is very fundamental, and the discussion of fighting is very fundamental. So it kind of just, it's like that. And so alongside this, I also speak over Tekken, and through Tekken, when speaking over Tekken or making Tekken videos, I speak more complexly, and so it's kind of just like a nice parallel between the two platforms and the two series of videos. And so it's cool. And additionally, it's like where I'm at in both games are like two different sides of the they're just they're basically like completely right now. I'm basically you know getting out of just being an online player with Tekken, and it's like with Soul Calibur, I'm just basically to the point where it's like I'm way in the beginning. It is cool because I'm also practicing. So yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, with everything being in this sort of rough draft, hardly making sense. You know, it helps out in the long run because I'll be able to refine my thoughts and really advance fighting. So, one thing about fighting games is when you're new to fighting, or better yet, one thing about fighting is when you're new to fighting, you can get into fighting a few ways. You can get into fighting all kinds of ways. Hold on, let me make sure this volume balance is right. Hold on. All right. You can get into fighting all kinds of ways, but the truest forms of, or the purest forms of getting into fighting is through like some sort of like camp, like where people train,
In a cursed
whether
castle
it be like a
hall,
gym or a
warriors dance in a
dojo,
masquerade of death.
Let's get this over with.
or like with like some
My
type of
mission is
gang.
what matters, not you.
Aside from that, going into fighting on your own is truly the truest way to fight, or the way to learn how to fight. What is it? Fuck out of here. But being entirely on your own is pretty much the purest way. I will say, however, being on your own at your root is something that's mandatory to being a true fighter. You have to understand that you're basically all alone in this thing. You have to understand that it's about you and no one else. Now, you can be fortunate enough to not understand that and become a true fighter if you are able to be in a group setting, like in this case, like I said, a dojo, a gym, or maybe a game. I mention this because when playing fighting games,
stand, fight to your last breath.
In order to get in order to prevent yourself from getting caught up with low ceilings, you have to have a way of gauging your competition because you have to have a way of gauging your competition.
The battle is over. Show respect for the fallen who fought so bravely.
Woo! What a cinch!
So that you can more or less manage the fight, because a lot of people will they will try to sandbag, or what they will do is they will hard gamble. Okay, so what are these things? What is sandbagging and hard game? How does this really impact you? Well, the thing is this. If someone sandbags you, then basically what they're doing is they're playing you.
The winds fan the flames of the warriors' fighting spirits.
Under the conditions that
it seems I must also draw steel.
They're extremely skilled, but they're probably just playing at some sort of handicap. But they're playing at an experience. Hold on, I gotta get through this fool. Alright. They're playing you. What is happening? You this is it.
You're open.
Whoa. Alright.
Stand, fight to your last breath.
They're playing you.
Battle 2, fight!
typically with an extreme experience advantage. And their experience is so advanced that it doesn't necessarily guarantee them for them to be able to win, but it gives them such an advantage that they're not stressed to typically fight. Like fighting is not a like they're not lacking confidence because of sandbagging. Now, when you are just like starting out and you're like new to the game and like you don't really have that much skill, it's very easy to sandbag you. It's very easy for people to be way out of your league, but for them just to throttle their offense in order to fight you. So it's like they're basically playing as if they're not talented, or they're playing like at like 30%. I mean, like you're sitting over here playing at 100%, and just basically according to what meets the eye, like you would assume that there was no difference in talent or whatever. Oh man. Okay. You would assume that there's no difference in skill, you know, but what you'll notice when people are sandbagging is that it seems like no matter how hard you fight them, their cool never gets lost. Like they're always just totally calm. Like that's an obvious form of sandbagging. In Tekken, you're more or less able to see it, like because you can play ranked, and when you play ranked, like you'll be fighting against someone who, let's say for example, may be a low beginner rank, but if you press like the select button, it'll show you their highest character rank. And typically, if you're fighting against someone and their highest character rank is like Tekken God, but you're fighting them at like a beginner rank, that's an example of someone sandbagging you. Like they may be playing a character that they're not particularly
a merchant
like
ship replete with riches attracts more
super
chaos
proficient
than
in, but the
customers.
simple fact that they have so much experience and they've seen so much, they may understand attack properties really well just through experience of playing one character. They may understand combo damage really well, movement, spacing, all of these things. These are various forms of sandbagging. And depending on where you're at, you can be sandbagged a lot of different ways. Like just not understanding string properties and someone understanding better string properties than you, they can sandbag you just by doing little cheap strings. Now, the way that people get to these sort of ranks varies. Because like I said, you can start fighting so many different ways. Like you can start fighting on your own. If you're lucky, you'll be in a group, a good group, which is like a gym or a dojo. You know, if you're like super jazonied out, it could more likely be like a gang. And so based on this, people establish sandbagging. Now, sandbagging is very common because a lot of guys don't have ethics. Like a lot of people that fight, they don't have ethics because if they started fighting, you know, with a really bad team or a bad gang, then they'll never learn the importance of these things. And so, with that said, a lot of people sandbag. Now, if you're just going through the ranks and you know you're all on your own and you get caught up with sandbagging, it's pretty much, you know, you can fight through these moments, but they're going to be extremely draining. Like if you're just going to seriously just go through the good old-fashioned golden route of becoming a purist, you know, in this day and age, like if you just want to go down a straight purist route and you know you're just going to specialize in a character, then what's going to happen is you'll get caught up with people that sandbag a lot, and they'll know everything that you're likely to do. They'll know all your attack properties, and they'll be able to sit there and just throttle you down to the point where it's like you'll be using so much meter and they won't be using any meter, and you won't have any resolution as to how to deal with them, so they'll drain you very fast. Alright, here we go.
Watch over me!
They'll drain you very, very rapidly
Victory goes to
if
the
you go
last
down
one
the
standing.
true fighter route. And in this day and age. And I'll just keep it short. Ain't nobody got time for that, man. Hold on. Out of here. Ain't nobody got time for that, man. Because it's just like, it's just the way that things are nowadays. Ain't nobody got time for that. Oh my goodness.
Claim victory and bask in the glory.
My goodness. But yeah, no one has time for that. And with that said, you know, dealing with sandbags can be
A merchant ship
very
replete with riches attracts more chaos than customers.
devastating, especially when you don't have any, when you don't know
It is anyone's battle.
what characters are doing. Like you sitting over here just learning everything from just straight experience. You know, no research, just you just play one character and you learn it from experience. Furthermore, you know, your dojo, your gang, I mean, all sorts of different stuff. Like, you know, it's just all these different variables. Long story short, because it's just you, you have to develop a set of
Victory will
characters
not come easily. It must be seized.
that would take place of the people, like a good dojo.
Fight!
And so for this reason, you have to develop characters, and you have to basically play them based on their proficiency. And what this will do is, you play them based on their proficiency. Hold on.
Victory will not. Battle 3. Fight!
What it will do is it will allow you to play against other players, and you can basically throttle your game so that you can just know when you're being sandbagged. And then when you're being sandbagged, what you can do is what it will help you do is it'll help you matchmake, because a big issue with fighting is matchmaking. See, you could sit here and try to go through the ranks, but if you're never well matched, then it makes learning very difficult. Like if you're going through situations where you just over here just destroying the opposition, then you're not learning anything. And a lot of times you can ingrain really bad habits. If you go through situations where you're getting sandbagged and people are just exploiting, using all these exploits repetitively, or they're using like just counter picks that are just very much push you at extreme disadvantage, which is very common in Soul Calibur with the way that characters are balanced. Then you're not able to retain any information that's going to be really transferable, or you know, a lot of times too they will take advantage of mental they'll take advantage of like a lot of like sort of hyper mental um, like hyper mental bad habits, or like certain things that like have nothing to do with fighting or anything. They'll just be using like very devastating low ball
The
tactics.
memories of
But the
ancient
reason they'll
battles
be doing this is
slumber,
because they'll be
eternally
able to do this because
unknown.
they'll be sandbagging you to the point where they'll have so much
Wanna see how
free
much I
brain
broke?
power. Because you'll be sitting here using all this meter and they'll just be sitting there using no meter.
Battle 1.
And so long story short, by you being able to matchmake, you prevent you from going through that stupid cycle. You know, that cycle of like, okay, you have this one opponent and you know, this person damn near quits on you. Then you get another opponent and then all of a sudden, you know, you can't even win a round. And so what will happen is when people are like really sandbagging you, they'll just sit here and
Victory
they'll
will
press
not
you
come
out
easily. It must be seized.
with like really horrible matches.
Battle 2.
So like let's say for example you'll get like, you know, 20 devastating fights. Not 20 devastating fights. Let's say for example you'll get like 4 devastating fights back to back. Like fights where you can't move. You know, these people doing crazy combos. You know, you don't even get a chance to like get off the ground. And then all of a sudden you'll just have like 2 fights where you just the opponents just quit on you because you just devastate
Fight
them.
to your last breath.
What will happen is you sit there and do that. That's basically an hour of your day. So they'll sit there and do that to you, let's say for example, 3 times in a row. That's 3 hours of your day. You haven't learned nothing. And then on top of that, these people are just, you know what I'm saying, just like you're not realizing these people literally have devastated you 12 fights in a row. And they learning everything because they're sitting here sandbagging you, using all that information. Here you go, you get back on the next day. Now they're compounded in their resistance towards your fighting ability, and they're able to develop even more advanced strategies. Before you know it, you can get so far under that they will. I mean, your ability to win, it just to go down the purest route. I mean, that's the pure route in this day and age. Nobody has time for that, you know. And so, the only way you can prevent you from getting caught up with ceilings like that, because this is that's truly the ceilings that keep a lot of people down. The only way that you can prevent those ceilings is by creating, you know,
Blood, flesh,
is
and
by
souls are
basically
offered to the gods amidst
developing a
deathly
roster of
chants.
fighters, and through those roster of fighters, you're able to more or less, in effect, create your own
Battle 1. Fight.
good team, and you're able to figure out like, okay, how you can fight a lot of opponents and learn a lot from them. And this information and this experience is the real experience, because it's the real experience, because it's really where you learn how to fight effectively.
Victory will not come easily. It
And
must
the
be
reason
seized.
being is because when you're playing like the absolute best, the margin for error is very small. When you're playing the absolute worst, I mean, there's no limit to really more or less what you can get away with. So, you know, you have to get fights where you have to get into fights where you can take your time and like learning like certain variables of like fighting. And in order to get those opportunities, they're either going to have to be facilitated or
Victory will not come easily.
they're gonna
It
have
must
to be
seized.
they're gonna have to be facilitated, and the only way you're gonna be able to influence any of the facilitation is if you have a good roster of characters and you play them based on
No way!
your effectiveness with them. You know, your likelihood to win and stuff like that. Because this way, whenever you're playing against weaker opponents, you can play these characters. You can play these characters and they can be, you can empower them. It'll allow you to play them at a handicap that's maybe not as like super devastating as you playing, like, you know, if you were to say, like, say when you were to be a purist and you're just constantly playing, you know, your best character over and over on these people. Yeah, you'll be able to, you know, get through them and whatnot, but it won't actually improve any of your learning, because a lot of times you'll just be able to get over on them by using information that's just more advanced to them.
What a cinch!
But also, if you keep playing against the same character, then they can memorize these things, and this is what they'll do. It makes you really vulnerable to sandbagging. It also makes you especially vulnerable to coaching, because especially in this day and age, people will be playing against you, but they will be playing against you in groups, and they'll be like watching, you know, people fight against you and stuff like that, and they'll be like telling people like, all right, do this, do that, and you'll know because the rate that an opponent would adapt to things. So, you know, the more, so basically,
warriors to the arid desert.
You want to more or less develop a roster of characters so you can more or less have a hand, so you can more or less
I'm fine. I can
basically
do this.
know where things are at. If you play against someone and they crazy sandbag you, then what you can do is you can be like, okay, cool, let me just play a stronger character, and you can play your strongest character and then see how the fight goes. You'll know if they're able to just, you know, annihilate your strongest character, to what extent you're being sandbagged, and then from that point you can determine whether or not they're within a good matchmaking range, and then you can fight them. I mean, you know, you can make a decision, you know, how much you really want to fight them. I mean, like they say, anyone can win. You know, anyone, it's possible for anyone to win. Like, especially with people using Eye of the Tiger, they can always find a way to win. With enough desperation and determination, anyone can always win. It's just, you got to be very careful not to allow people to sandbag you for hours on end, because it just allows people to get a level of feedback from you that you don't even get from them when you're just getting when you're just getting sandbagged. Because like I said, these people aren't even using meat on you. I mean, you might as well give these people, you know, you might as well give these people 2 slices of a cucumber, because these people over here, you know, they're just sunbathing on you. They're not even, you know, this is breast and relaxation on you. And so basically, this is basically where I'm at with it. I mean, the sooner you make this investment, the better, because
victory goes to the last one standing.
it also pays in dividends, because it allows you to, it also pays in, it also, it accelerates the learning, it accelerates learning. And it helps you
Stand.
understand the
Fight to
game
your
better
last
because
breath.
what it will teach you is it'll teach you attack properties
Final
so
battle.
that
Fight.
it won't require you so much meter fighting against the characters that you're learning. And as you become more proficient with the characters, your defense against the characters will also become more proficient. It's just the consequence of playing like, very low ranking characters is, it's very hard to win. But again, if the earlier you invest in this, the better because, wow.
I too
The earlier you
cannot
invest in
afford
this,
to
the
lose.
better because
The battle is over. Show respect
it'll
for the
it'll be
fallen who
that
fought so
that much
bravely.
earlier that you won't be as much of
One moment of peace.
impacted by sandbagging. If you allow, I mean, because people will sandbag you as soon as people are able to gauge your skill level, they'll know how to sandbag you. So yeah, let me. So basically, my roster at this point. So Siegfried is always my strongest character. This is just how it's always been in Soul Calibur. Keelik is my strongest character, but in order for Keelik to be my strongest character, I have to know most of the roster. I don't know most of the roster yet, so Keelik is basically always kind of like second strongest. But Keelik is like sort of like and sort of unbeatable character for me, So it's kind of like for me to play Keelik very well, it kind of will put me at a state of almost invincibility, as much as I don't like to admit it. Siegfried, on the other hand, is my all-around strongest character. So if someone can really like tear me down with Siegfried, then I know for a fact that I'm kind of at like my limit. However, if I'm just like able to beat them with Siegfried, second to Siegfried I would play is basically Cassandra, and then after Cassandra it would be, or second to Siegfried is Keelik, and then after Keelik is Cassandra. So this is basically like my highest sort of tier of characters. Then in the second tier, it's basically Sungmina, and Sungmina because Sungmina is basically is a character that I've played throughout my entire life. So Sungmina is a character that I haven't played too much in Soul Calibur 6, primarily because the character is so much stronger in this game, and the character is way more explored in this game than the character has ever been. So the character is more mainstream in Soul Calibur 6. So I just kind of gave him the character a slight break. Also, the character has a lot of fights that are put them at interesting handicaps, which I think really just require learning. I just don't want to get too comfortable playing such a sort of cruising character as Sungmina with the way the character is designed. But long story short, Sungmina is like the lead of the second tier of characters, and this is followed by Sophia, Ivy, and also Amy. And so that's basically the second tier, and or better yet, I would even say the second tier is Sophia, it's Cassandra and Sophia. That's the second tier. The third tier is Sungmina and Amy and even Hellday. And basically, the way it goes is, and the reason that the tiers are set up this way is just based on the experience playing the characters. How much time spent playing the characters alongside how effective you are with the characters. So in this game I haven't played Sungmina that much. So for this reason, Sungmina is at the lowest tier. But if I play against some beginners, and I get to the point where I can bring Sungmina out and Sungmina starts winning, then that will bring Sungmina up to a greater tier. But you're understanding, or like you're determine what determines whether or not you play this character is basically how much you're able to win at a higher tier. So if I'm able to really beat someone with Sophia and Cassandra, then I'm like, okay, cool, I'll just play Sungmina. If I'm able to beat someone with Siegfried, it's like, okay, cool, I'll play Sophia and Cassandra. What this does is it gives me more energy to spend on meter and less in it, and what it does is it gives me more energy, slightly more energy to spend on meter because I don't have to spend as much time considering smaller variables of the fight, and it helps me strengthen my fighting ability because now I have to learn attacks with these characters. They're not too much further away from these characters, but I still have to learn with them. I also have to learn defense with them. Now, if it gets to the point where I can dominate with these characters at this point, by them fighting within their sort of skill range, it also helps me actually learn very well with these characters because you're able to fight people at their skill and at their proper skill. And this is the fastest way for you to really learn. This is why you spend so much time playing against the computer in the beginning, because it's like in the beginning, your tiers are so low that like anybody can sandbag you. Not saying that, I mean, sandbagging is not necessarily the ultimate deterrent from you playing competitively, but it is a very commonly used tool when to deter people from playing competitively, and it's really how people really get pushed out of competitive playing. And it's for this reason a lot of fighters do not actually make it into even. This is the reason why a lot of fighters never are able to graduate classes, because they get stuck at various stages because of just this simple obstacle of the sandbag. The sandbagging is almost like a glass ceiling for a lot of these people, a limiting variable for a lot of these people. And so this is how you get through it. And you just basically decide based on how it goes. I mean, like for example, Geralt. Here we go. Cassandra, Hilde, Sungmina. I could sit here and be like, all right, Maxi. I could be like Maxi, Mitsurugi, and let's say for example Nightmare, because Nightmare is actually in there now that I remember. So Sungmina, Nightmare, and Amy. But then I could just be like Ivy, which is a character which is basically just if I'm playing with Ivy, it's like, man, I must be having a great day. Maxi, and let's say for example like Talon, I could be like, okay, that's but really what you really want to have is a range of like 3 tiers. Anything more than 3 tiers is just kind of like you can always sub characters out based on whatever's happening, and you can always also spend time playing characters based on what's ever happening. Like for example, if you find yourself being exploited by a character, like for example Voldo, which is very common, then you could literally sit here and be like, okay, I'm just going to play Voldo. And you can learn defensively how to deal with the character by becoming better, more proficient with the character. You're able to understand the character and see better, understand like attack properties, and you're able to in effect fight against the character better. So it's like now these 3 hours that you're in, it's like, okay, now if you're playing your absolute strongest character and you are sitting here, then there's no range for you to play. Now you can grind through things, but okay, so now you understand that's you playing at full power. You're able to range sort of your performance and know where you're truly at. You're not caught up in this sort of like, you're not allowing your ego to allow you to believe that you're something that you're not. So this is also something that people really exploit. All sorts of things like this. If you don't know simple variables like, certain times of day and how they impact your opponents, all these things. This is how you more or less bring everything back home to yourself. But this is also how you keep everything more or less in your stable. But this is also how you become the very best and you journey through these obstacles. You get a set of characters and you play them based on your proficiency with them. And right now, in the beginning, I'm basically playing these characters just against the computer. Now, if the computer ever beats me in Soul Calibur because of the extent of the game, I just basically stop playing. But it's cool. I just decide not to continue. But it's cool because really what's important when you're playing against a computer and at these stages is not that you so much win, it's more so that you retain information. And so you'll even notice, even with Sung Mina, yes, I lost, but did I lose with the most tremendous game? No, I didn't lose with the most tremendous game, but that's because I'm learning the character and I'm basically attributing every attack to memory. So it's just basically at this point I can sit here and mash out with the character and win, but that's not actually using this handicap properly. If that was the case, I might as well just play Siegfried and I can just go ahead and do time attacks. I'm not at that point. That's not the point. It's just basically based. The point is just to basically learn because I can sit here if I play against someone and they're proficient with Sung Mina, and they can sit here and it's gonna be I'm gonna have to use so much. I'm gonna have to use so much meter just to win relative to them that it's basically gonna burn me out and I'm not gonna get a lot out of learning and that's basically to win. That's best case scenario. It's a very common scenario that you will just end up losing and then you end up running through all your meter. Like I said, they'll do this for 3 hours straight. And what do you get out of that? That's basically jabroni season and the only jabroni is you. So that's not the point of what's going on. And like I said, I've done this a few times before. This is a fundamental understanding of and it's derived from truly understanding that it's just you in this day and age. But one of the best case scenarios is if you have the one of the best case scenarios and to get into fighting games is basically like the greatest protagonists get into most things and that's with two supportive friends. And you don't have this, so this is what you basically do with these characters. My greatest tier is like Siegfried, and then his support is basically Keelik and Cassandra. It's like who is going to be able to beat this team. The second tier to that is really Sophia and Cassandra, and then it's like the third tier to that is Sung Mina. And so these people basically act as basically the people that you deal with, the people that help you overcome bosses, because these people that are sandbagging you effectively are like boss, so you can basically gauge where their power levels are. If you're not able to, you can gauge where their power levels are, you can meet them accordingly. And this is how you're going to be able to get through the early stages, the early ranks, and get through the early tiers and really sort of also ensure that you get through these tiers at a decent time, at a decent rate, and you don't get oppressed and reduced by them because they can getting oppressed and reduced in fighting games can lead to brain damage, for lack of a better description, in the form of bad habits, repetitive nature. People really black out. You can black out, which is very common. People will be blacked out. All of these things. These are things that you take advantage of, that you become aware of through practicing and understanding the true philosophy of fighting. And a great fundamental of that philosophy is, without, for lack of a better, explanation, is just having a good roster of characters at various power levels so that you can more or less throttle your opponent and actually learn from the exchange. What it will teach you is, like, if you don't have any sort of, if people are if their experience levels are far beyond yours, then it just means that you need to basically go back to the drawing board and get yourself to a point where you can better manage yourself. And in the beginning, it's literally just learning the game. You know, now if it was the good old days, you would be able to play against other people. You'd be able to play against other people, but it's not anymore. Now you can play against other people, but there's no telling where these people's loyalty lie, and it's basically going to be like basically a flip of a coin as to whether or not these people will even be able to handle a loss. Aside from all of this, the turmoil and obstacles that they bring on an individual basis in this day and age. So it's like if you have the if you're fortunate enough to and the best the the good news about this is, if you truly are new to fighting games, because you lack a lot of foresight and fruition, it's very likely that you'll be able to align yourself with a truly good campaign. It's just, even your campaign could get exploited. And so now I realize that's a better way of explaining it. You just want to put together a good campaign of characters. So this way you're able to get an idea of the obstacles you're up against. And also you're able to learn and consistently grow. And so, like I said, if people are really outpowering you, it just means you need to go back to the drawing board. And in this case, what is my drawing board? It's like literally learning the game. And so this is where I'm going to sort of pause it at this very moment. And I'm going to take a smoke break and get into the second half of this. The second half of this, but I just gotta take a break. Hold on. But I also gotta make this playlist. But yeah, so basically Soul Calibur needs a mellow playlist in order to have like music it's because it has to be something that's more in line with the pace. Because if it's too fast, it'll exhaust you, and if it's too slow, it will drain you. Aside fighting. And so with Soul Calibur, you really have to emphasize the RPG. Whew. Alright. And so yeah, the roster, it helps out with a lot of things. But, again, it helps you exercise with more resistance as well. Like for example, like if you're fighting, fighting can always be strengthened. It's just fighting, with no resistance, it allows you to fight more so with resistance. Now, the types of fighting players. It's important to know the types of fighting players because by knowing the types of fighting players, you can know where you stand in the you can know where you stand, and you can kind of know like the phases of progress and like what what like a higher tier is to you. And it gives you a point to aim for. Now, most people see tournament players as the greatest players because they win tournaments, and it's just thought that because people play in tournaments that they're the best because that's where people play the hardest. It's not entirely true, and this is more of a modern phenomenon than a true to fighting reality. But this is just because the nature of the average individual is no longer really like truly fighting centric. People are more so concerned with fame, and people more so fight for reasons due to weak reasons nowadays more so than true reasons because of sandbagging, like what I spoke on. So there's a lot of different types of fighters. And a lot of it
The battle is over.
depends on, you know, how you start.
So bravely.
And that kind of
Forgive me.
so with that out of the way, the first type of fighter you have is a beginner. And what should you know about a beginner? So a beginner is basically kind of like that Pokemon, you know, when it's like at its first stage of evolution. Or like that Digimon, you know, when it's kind of like, I guess, first sort of known.
In
or
a cursed castle hall, warriors
when
dance
it's
in a
first
masquerade
sort
of death.
My life is not for your taking.
Let me show you my blade's beauty.
unified with,
Battle
you know,
1. Fight!
a trainer. They're kind of like, you know, cool. They're really funny. They're probably at a stage where they're most attractive to everyone, you know. They're kind of, they have that sort of babyish about them. The sky's the limit,
Victory goes to the last
and
one
they
standing.
can have so much potential. And they typically resemble some sort of style, some sort of basic fundamental element of style. In Pokemon, it's known as, you know, it's determined by the elemental type. So, you know, you have
Victory will not come easily.
grass types,
It must be seized.
fire types, water types.
Fight!
Those are the basics. You know, then you have special classes like electric. You have psychic, and I'm just thinking what else you have. Like,
Claim victory and bask in the
I'm thinking
glory.
if there's any other special classes. Like there's some classes in Pokemon, like these Pokemon just absorb damage and just, you know. Then you have like special case scenarios like Snorlaxes and stuff like that. They're basically like sandbag characters. So, you know, this is how these little sort of beginners are. Now, the thing about them is they're very impressionable. And it's at this point when who they become as fighters,
The desire
the
for power
obstacles
leads
they
the warriors
experience
to
as
the arid
fighters,
desert.
whether or not they make it as fighters,
Step aside.
for a lot of them,
I've sinned enough already.
this is where
truly so important to you?
Battle 1. Fight!
a lot of their true potential is shown. But this is almost like where their fate is shown. in a lot of instances that they're not like truly fighters in their heart.
Stand. Fight to your last
But
breath.
let's just, in this case, say that they're all fighters. This is when they're sort of the most impressionable. And so this is basically what a beginner is. You know, you talk to them, they're kind of cool. You know, they lose, they're not really that mad.
Stand. Fight
They
to your
understand that
last
they're not
breath.
that good.
Ridiculous.
Now, if you... I'm just thinking. This is basically what a beginner is. I mean, they're weak. the best case scenario for a beginner is that they have a good campaign of friends. So, you know, they have other people that are also at the same level of evolution as them, and they can fight against them in sort of a nursery fashion.
Claim victory.
Private
And bask in the
lobbies
glory.
with just groups of them all together, and they can all fight together and sort of evolve, and from this stage of beginner evolve into their second form, because it's not until they get to their second form that they're truly able to fight, unless they are paired with someone that's like a master themselves, and they can actually explain to them how to fight from a master perspective. And this is basically using Pokemon analogy, this sort of more or less Pikachu effect. So a beginner can become a prodigy under the right guidance, and this is very
Warriors
rare.
cross swords
And in
beneath
most
the gaze
cases,
of the
in
ancient
fighting games,
gods.
this is where a lot of beginners fall victim of the dark side,
Why hasten
and they're
your death?
converted before they have any chance of becoming anything at all.
One. Fight.
Because a player that's better than them will sandbag them and exploit them just to beat them. And this is very common.
I must endure. Going in.
So, you know, the reason why you kind of more or less want to get out of this beginner stage is because it's not until you become at least the second stage of evolution before you have any real influence over a fight. Other than that, you're more or less at the mercy of your friends, your immediate friends, and whether or not someone takes a liking to you. So, I mean, you know, you want to sit there and you want to play fighting games that way, you're purely just a beginner.
Stand. Fight to
Now,
the last
the
breath.
next stage above beginner is basically a jabroni.
Fight.
And the way that you traverse being a beginner versus being a beginner into being a jabroni is by learning the game, is by basically just learning the game better than somebody that is a beginner that just bought the game. And the way that you do this is by beating the game to the point where you can basically obliterate the computer. Alright, cool. To the point where, like, you know, you're playing against the computer and you're just like, to the point where you're playing against the computer and you get to the point where you're like, alright, I'm ready to play against people online. This is the point when you become a jabroni. Now, there's different forms of
A
jabronis.
single
Just like
slash
there's
can
different
cut even
sort
the
of like
frozen air in two.
themes to beginners, there's different themes to jabronis. Now, one thing I will say about this, and this is one thing about fighting, and true fighters versus people that are quote unquote are not true fighters. All people that fight that are not true fighters will become a victim of the dark side. At some point, they will fall victim to the dark side because they will not have the capacity to overcome their obstacles. Truly, they're going to have to resort to some sort of they're going to have to resort to some sort of something in order to win outside of honor and integrity, respect, and dignity. Because they're going to get to a point where there's where their desire to win is going to overpower. Is going to overpower. It's going to overpower the truth of their heart.
Victory will not come easily. It must be seized.
At this, so as you go through these types of characters and these types of players, understand that traversing these points typically leads to corruption. So they're typically going to become, unless they have, once again, good guidance and stuff like that, or it's truly who they are, they're typically going to become bad forms as they get better and better at fighting games. So for this reason, this is why most people that play fighting games are like bad people.
The battle is over. Show respect for the fallen who fought so bravely.
So at this point you're gonna be a jabroni.
Curse this evil.
I'm just thinking, is a jabroni the best case scenario of someone who's kind of like at their early stages of maturity in a fighting game? See, once you learn the fighting game, you're basically to the point where you are. A lot of jabronis, what they do is these are the people that like watch things like Evo. So jabronis are the people that watch tournaments, and they watch tournaments with the ability. Like a lot of them, like the more visible a jabroni is, typically the more confidence they have with the fighting game. This is because if they are visible from a fighting game perspective and they're bad at the fighting game, then what will happen is people will dislike them to the point where they'll sort of like scurry them out of the spotlight. So when jabronis are visible, typically it's because they have a lot of confidence because they're able to win like online a lot. These people are able to win online a lot because most people online are just beginners. And so because they know the game, they're able to see things and they're able to fight with a lot of effortlessness, because they don't have to use as much meter and stuff like that. So at this point, they'll basically become jabronis. They'll be the people watching Evo, they'll be watching Winter Brawl, and they'll watch it with the mindset of, being good, but recognizing that the tournament players are better. And this is because, this is the stage that they're at. They're at this stage where they're outside of tournament play, but they're very good at online play. So jabronis will understand fighting games. They'll have a good understanding of fighting games, and they'll be able to understand like frames and stuff like that. The biggest flaw to jabronis is they lack a lot of experience, so they don't have a true understanding of what it means to fight. Like they think that they're playing video games. So for this reason, they look at tournament players as the absolute best because they look at the fighting game as a video game. They don't understand the battle of goodness and darkness. They just think that it's just a fighting game. And so it's, again, they're jabronis. This is more or less like a good case scenario. Now, the thing about jabronis is the class above jabronis is a tournament player. Now, a tournament player, the only difference between a jabroni and a tournament player is a tournament player understands the game, but also effectively executes the game just as well as they understand it. They execute the game very thoroughly and very consistently. So it's like they know all the information and they use it to their ability. And it's for this reason that they're able to win tournaments. And also typically because they have extraordinary fundamentals. And they rely on extraordinary fundamentals in order to win tournaments. So there'll be a lot of players that will play in tournaments that were never necessarily proper beginners. Maybe they were beginners in other fighting games. But through graduating, being a jabroni in different fighting games and just knowing what it takes to, graduate, they establish tournament gameplay in other games without really going through the traditional phases because they're able
Stand. Fight to your
they're
last
able
breath.
to minimize a game to tournament variables, which is things like spacing and punishment. Players that are extremely patient and extremely competitive hearted oftentimes excel at tournament play because that's what it really takes for them to consistently win in tournament settings against people that are playing really hard. Why is this? Because these people are playing video games. And because they're playing video games, what video games ultimately amount to is gambling.
Claim victory and bask
And
in
so
the
the
glory.
tournament player minimizes gambling with extremely good fundamentals by basically moving around and understanding all possible options. What happens is you reduce the sort of rock, paper, scissors and the sort of guessingness of playing video games. They are tournament players. They are one step above jabronis. Now, this is something that may kind of shock you is that like people that play in tournaments, a lot of times a tournament may only have maybe like one or two actual tournament players, and they'll just be consist of a whole bunch of jabronis that would like to be tournament players. These are like the smaller tournaments. So the bigger the tournament, the more hardened the jabronis and the more hardened their tournament, the more often you run into tournament players. Tournament players
The
beat down
memories of
tournament
ancient
players with
battles
tournament
slumber
ability.
eternally
And
unknown.
basically it's just hyper technical video
I've sinned
game
enough
bullshit at this point.
Have it your way.
This is because there's not a lot of true fighters.
Battle one.
A better than most tournament players is a true fighter.
Stand aside.
True fighters
You're mine.
are people that understand fighting philosophy. And so for this reason, they're able to beat a lot of tournament players because they don't use any meters relative to what a tournament player uses in order just to stay on
Victory
top.
goes to the last one standing.
Because true fighters understand art form and they understand what they understand how to use art because they understand what fighting is on a spiritual level. They understand the spirituality behind the art, and so for this reason they're able to fight on multiple planes, and they're able to fight
Victory
through
goes to the
multiple
last one
planes
standing.
and through multiple variables that a tournament player does not keep in their super hyper competitive mind. And this is just something that's basically been lost over time. So you have tournament players.
Still fighting. How the?
Most tournament players are more or less a matter of their opponents, not so much their skill level. It's just they all fight the same. When they can't consistently win tournaments, when you'll see a true fighter when a tournament player wins tournaments, they win a lot of tournaments, but they lose to true fighters. A lot of true fighters are people that learn fighting games the true way and they understand the sort of battle that is really taking place. And it's for this reason you're able to cruise through most tournament players. So there's a stage of becoming a true fighter. Now, in order to become a tournament player, all you have to do is be a really high level jabroni. But in order to become a true fighter, you have to basically surpass all jabronis, clearly surpass all jabronis. Now, there's two ways you can clearly surpass all jabronis. You can do it by fighting in tournaments, or you can do it by understanding what it means to truly fight and understanding what's basically going on. Because it's basically understanding that by having sort of more, by having more different, by understanding your meter system down to a more finite ability, you're able to train your meters and you're able to train more meters, and you're also able to deplete your opponent of various meters, and you're able to take advantage of those meters being depleted, because again, you understand fighting from a spiritual perspective, so the art form of fighting doesn't is not lost in your execution of it and your approach to it. See, and so this will lead you to becoming a true fighter. So that's also to say that you don't have to play in tournaments to become a true fighter. You just have to become a true fighter, and you'll run into other people that are true fighters. These will be people that you play against, and you'll be like, man, these people. I wonder why these people don't play in tournaments. A lot of them don't play in tournaments probably because they don't have what it takes to consistently play. For whatever reason. Now, now you have true fighters, and that is a fighting ability. Then you have legends. And so legends are people that are true fighters, but they are able but they are legendary fighters. In other words, they beat fighters, they make fighters look like beginners. And so this is what makes them legends, because a lot of the greatest players play against them, and they get reduced to nothing. Legends also play in tournaments. And these will be the people that show up out of nowhere, and they win through astronomical means. They win and everybody goes crazy, and these are like people from like nowhere. These people are legends. This is also another level of fighting. And then above legends, so then above the legends you have even greater levels, and those levels are not worth mentioning. It's just at this point, because getting to those levels is still sacred information. So it's kind of like something I probably will talk about while playing Tekken, not so much while playing Soul Calibur. And so basically, and the way that you get from becoming a jabroni to becoming a fighter is through understanding your philosophy. Now, like I said before, most people fall for the dark side. So most people are going to end up getting stuck at tournaments. They're going to end up getting stuck in tournament ranks because they're never going to accept true fighting dynamics. So they're never going to strengthen themselves in understanding fighting with the light, and the light being ultimately destined to constantly vanquish the darkness. They'll never perceive fighting from that perspective, so they'll always see it in a form of video games. They may understand the art form, like for example, they'll pick up on the art form because you'll teach it to them, but they'll never really truly respect the art form because they'll always interpret the video game variables. And one thing you will notice is like a lot of jabronis, this is the reason why they why this is the reason why they always end up resorting to gambling, because a lot of times they will be a disbelief in how effectively they are dismantled at a true fight. So it's for this reason why they'll always like counterpick, or they'll try to sandbag a lot, because it's the only way that they're able to outwit a true fighter, because true fighting is done from the spirit, so much so that it's an art form that can't be out processed. So their only way of really fighting you is by trying to fight you spiritually, and it'll just basically translate into them forcing a dumb hand. This is the reason why fighting surpasses all jabronis clearly, and it dominates in tournaments, because a lot of these players are so conditioned. They're conditioned, like they are truly mentally conditioned to play video games, and because they're not true fighters, they have fallen astray they've fallen off the righteous path, and this is what they've become. They have become a lot of them become cronies and jabronis. Now jabronis, they have a counterpart. If jabronis become rotten, if they become rotten to the core, then what they become is they become scrubs. And scrubs are just people that play fighting games just to hurt people, and they want to they're people that play fighting games purely to just breed negativity and breed evil, and they stand back and they're always looking for beginners to exploit and to take advantage of, and they're always doing just horrible things. These people are scrubs. So jabronis is like, best case scenario. Scrub is like the worst case scenario, kind of, more or less. It's like, above this you have fighters and you have tournament players in terms of their ability. But this is also to say most tournament players are truly on the dark side. And they're mentally conditioned more so to play video games. And you can observe this in who they are as people. And you can also observe this in what you see. But this also translates into everything that they do. These will be the people, these will be the people that do things, that they achieve these levels of skill by some sort of sacrifice, whether to their knowing or not. And it typically translates into them doing things that are basically almost inhumane. They'll sit here and play like a million games, but in order to be where they're at. And what you will find through going down the true path is that you'll do the same thing and realize it didn't actually amount to much for them. So, and it'll mean so much more to you. These will be the people that you see me play against a lot of times. And they'll have like 50 times more wins than me. And they'll lose, or they'll be resorting to like, very like low level, fighting strategies, and you'll just be sitting there wondering like, how is it that these people have done all this and they're still doing this? And the reason being is because they have fallen to the philosophy or the belief or the understanding or the the conditioning of playing video games. And so this is basically why understanding proper philosophy is so critical, because you don't want to get caught up, on the same stuff as them. And what you will find is when you start beating them, these will be the people that will like quit. When they start losing, they'll just straight quit. This is a byproduct of their mental conditioning. They're not made for this anyway. Like I said in the past, a lot of these people are Krillins in real life. They reach a level and then it's just like, what's going on? And so those are the types of fighting game players. And so these are basically this is basically what you're going through. Now, see, like, because I'm a beginner, I'm not going to sit over here and like play these people. I'm not going to play these people too much online. Like, I'm not gonna tolerate too much online. But I'm not gonna feel like I'm a coward, because I'm not gonna sit over here and let myself just get devastated if I know for a fact I don't even know what's going on. And not even as like you just don't know, and because you haven't learned anything. So this is what you do. You just learn when you're a beginner. I mean, you could be out there, but again, you're just going to be at the mercy of everything. The best case scenario, you'll find other new people.
Warriors dance in a
More than likely, they're
death.
sandbagging.
I'm sorry, but I can't back down.
So I like to just basically get to the point where you can at least be an entry-level jabroni before you spend more time online than off. Alright. And so you have to learn a
Victory will
character.
not come easily. It must be seized.
And so while I'm learning all these characters as a beginner, I'm just basically already just investing in these tiers. The truest way to do this is just to do this with one character and just, you know, learn from experience. But again, you don't, these people, the only time a lot of these people will fight you is that they feel like they can win. With all that out of the way,
Victory goes to the last one standing.
in the beginning stages, the game always seems very simple, or your game is always simple, but it's because you're just basically trying to attribute things to memory.
Battle 4. Fight!
And you just have to get yourself to the point where what you are thinking is what your character is executing, and you're completely in sync in terms of your inputs and your execution. And this is the first step of learning a character. This way, when you're fighting, you never.
Victory and bask
What will
in
happen is
glory.
this way when you're fighting, you never mash out.
Gods, please forgive me.
And by never mashing out, you always have control. And by always having control, you're able to understand how fast you can play with the character. And you're able to throttle out really advanced movement and attacks without relying on blind attack patterns, blind action. You're able to do this fully consciously, and this will devastate an opponent. This will devastate an opponent, and this is just one variable of just
The winds
understanding what it
fan the
means to truly
flames of the
fight.
warrior's fighting
So you
spirits.
just basically approach the fighting game.
I'm sorry, but
You
I can't
truly
back
approach the
down.
fighting game like a fight.
You just be a stain on my
And
blade.
at this point, you do so by attributing every attack to memory.
Not yet. Not yet.
And so you learn things. You learn things at this point
Fight to your last
more or less to
breath.
perfection. Like this attack right here, this
Battle 2.
sidestep B with Sophia. Look at the range on this. Look at the range on this.
Not yet. Ready? Forget it.
It seems to vary depending on the direction.
Forget it.
Victory goes to the last one standing.
And then so by understanding this,
Fight!
you can really improve the timing of it, which is going to greatly improve the likelihood of it actually landing. This is something that this is a variable that's more. This is a variable that's. This is a true fighting variable. This has nothing to do with video games. And so these are sort of the variables that someone that's fighting more or less understands. That someone that's playing video games fails to really realize all the time.
Battle 4. Fight!
But these are things that make a huge difference. And so, you know, you as a fighter, you sort of invest in these things so early that by the time you get to the point of difficult fights, I mean, you do these things without thinking.
Claim victory and bask in the glory.
I cannot allow myself to fall yet.
But yeah, you know, you just basically attribute things to memory. And so in the beginning, there's no point in, you know what I'm saying, using, you know, you try to use meter to the best of your ability, but you don't sit there and hyper focus on trying to, you know, do any specific combo, create any sort of result, like for example, maybe like a ring out, for example. You just basically attribute everything to memory, to the point where you can play the character effortlessly. And you'll know because it'll translate into you having comfort
with riches attracts more chaos than customers.
And establishing an understanding for the character that comes from yourself internally. Jabronis will sit there and watch tournament gameplay, and it's just hilarious because tournament gameplay is more so a result of somebody playing in front of people all day. But as a jabroni, you're inclined to look at like tournament gameplay or someone that, you know, is more proficient at winning than you and try to like acclimate their reasoning to your decision making. However, with this approach, what you're really doing is you're learning everything the best way possible from the start. Your ability to play a character is going to be a byproduct of how well you relate to the character. And that's the way it's supposed to be. If you come on with this. If you, for example, lose a lot with the character, then it's probably better that you shouldn't play the character.
Battle 3. Fight!
Cleaning time.
Victory goes to the last one.
And basically
standing.
the process is just
Battle 4. Fight!
if you basically keep your attacks simple, as long as you're able to anticipate like what they are. Oh my goodness, why can't you duck that? As long as you're able to anticipate what they are. But if, let's say for example, you attack and you get an undesired result, well, it's just basically to make sense of why you got that result. Like, why did the input not result in what you expected it to result in? And you just basically sort that out right now. when you're fighting in like a regular fight and you don't have this understanding, this
Claim
is what leads
victory
people to
and
mashing.
bask
Because
in the
you
glory.
lose control of the character, and you just basically get yourself to the point where
Gods,
you just want the
please
character
forgive
to
me.
attack the other character, and you think that, and you get and your control over the character gets reduced to rapidly pushing the button because you just are expecting a rapid response. That's basically what you're trying to force, and you're trying to do it in the shortest period of time. So it's almost as if you lose all control, and that's what you don't want. And so what you're doing at this point is you're working out those bad habits. Every time you find yourself mashing, it's a time when you have to step back and you have to just basically clean up your inputs, figure out something else. Once you get past mashing, then it becomes a matter of understanding attack properties, the distance
The
of the attack,
memories
the
of
speed of the
ancient
attack,
battles
and then
slumber,
what
eternally
position the
unknown.
character that you hit is
I'm
in,
sorry,
and what
but I
position are
can't
you
back
in.
down.
If they're on the ground, is there any way that you can continue fighting them can you fight them in an airtight situation? Can you parry something? You have to understand these things. This way, when you're playing the game, you don't use as much meter trying to use your immediate experience on determining whether or not something can be punished or not, because that's going to stress you out. It's going to strain you. It's going to strain your eyes, and it's going to strain your mind, and that's basically using meter. That's what you want to try to.
Stand.
You want to
Fight to
save
your
that
last
meter
breath.
for maybe devising a effective strategy, or maybe you want to save that meter for hyper focusing on some variable that's going to really determine the fight. Oh my god. So here's a situation where I'm getting overwhelmed. And so really all I'm trying to do is just get control of the situation. Wow.
Victory will not.
Battle 3. Fight!
But it's this sort of focus that really translates in the long run, because you can either lose your way into learning this the hard way,
I'm not done!
there we go.
Victory goes to the last one standing.
Battle 4. Let us fight!
But having this sort of focus helps keep you productive.
The battle is over. Show respect for the fallen who fought so bravely.
Gods, please forgive me.
So we're gonna see what the internet has to offer today,
Blood, flesh, and souls are offered to the gods amidst deathly chants.
I'm sorry, but I can't back down.
I believe in the path I've chosen.
Battle 1. Fight!
Battle 2. Fight!
Stay down! Come on! See ya! Can you handle this?
Just desserts.
Can you handle this?
Okay, here we go.
My resolve will never fail.
Victory goes to the last one standing.
And yeah, with this approach, you'll naturally progress the character. And your success with them is just going to be relative to your ability to relate to the character as you, with this approach to learning them. Okay.
Battle 4. Fight!
No way.
All I can do is this!
What?
Pardon me. One moment of peace.
Oh man, yeah, learning a character the good old, the good
The desire for
organic
power
way.
leads the warriors to the arid desert.
It's the
I'm
best way
sorry,
to learn
but I
them.
can't back down.
It's just online won't allow you to facilitate it because people will start
I
sandbagging you
cannot
before you
lose
even
here.
know it. And it's just because, you know, once again, most, like I said, most people, they fail. So you just gotta do this on your own, you know, beat the computer. On the bright side, Soul Calibur is, the computer, immense, great level of difficulty. So you can just literally sit here and play against the computer.
On guard. Nuisance.
You can literally sit here and play against the computer and really like learn really well. So this way you don't have to worry about dealing with, you know, getting just totally obliterated all the time, and you can level the computer to your level. The computer also, for this reason, is a good measure of your ability.
Ring out! Battle 3.
Peerless.
Fight!
One thing that about my approach is the way I approach Soul Calibur is I kind of approach most fighting games as a master of the game, despite how much experience I have in a game. The reason being is because I've I've
A single
I've
slash can cut
graduated through
even the
these
frozen
stages
air
through
in
various
two.
fighting games throughout various points in my life.
Gods,
So
guide me.
I kind of know what it means to play at the top, and so I know what's important to invest in the beginning. And it's like a lot of vanilla characters, like for example Sophia, they're very hard to play in the beginning because of just how well other people know how to play against them, but they're really good investments. It's just they come at the consequence of not necessarily having great defense against most players. Because most players don't play vanilla characters because, again, a lot of them don't play vanilla characters in short because it's most difficult to win with vanilla
Victory goes to
characters.
the last one
So they'll
standing.
typically look for some sort of advantage through counter picking or something like that.
Fight!
But, you know, it's like with these characters, this is when learning the organic way really sort of shows through because a lot of these characters can only truly be learned the organic way. I mean, you can learn exploits, but you're never going to be good with vanilla characters relying on exploits because they only have different exploits are so
It
vanilla.
must be seized.
Vanilla characters rely on fundamentals. And information of their and defense abilities. Especially a character like Sophia. I mean, like, they have a lot of power, but it just... You just have to know what you're doing really well. And so, again, that's where understanding hit properties really come into play because
Victory and bask in the glory.
just knowing that I can attack from that distance like that
Allow myself to fall yet.
at perfect measurement, it makes that move a completely devastating attack. And so being able to fight like that consistently against someone that's just simply playing video games, that's how understanding, that's how your spirit and the art are effectively shown in or effectively translated in the fight. And that's what truly makes a difference to someone's spirit, because even to do that and for me to understand what it means, regardless of what happens, it will recharge my spirit. It will give me power that can only
Warrior
be
spirits are forged below the never-ending
prevented
skies.
by someone that understands what's really going on. And so it's for this reason that it's a depth of fighting that a person that's playing video games doesn't understand, but it will take effect on them. That's why they always get reduced to gambling, because when they become in tune of these things, they get really exhausted and drained trying to understand it. So, you know, because of this, they try to avoid the consequence by using blind rage, and it's you taking advantage of this blind rage that sets you apart from them, clearly sets you apart from them. But being able to be aware of this, fighting dynamic is a matter of philosophy, and being able to take advantage of it is So yeah, it's a matter of philosophy the same.
For humanity!
And so once you become a legend, you basically are able to exploit this
Victory goes to the last
at
one
a level
standing.
of tournament focus. And
Battle 3. Fight!
this is how those two are separated. Wow. Ooh. And see, even understanding that, look at that. Even understanding that, it's that split second timing.
Fight to your battle 4.
Just clearly understanding that split second timing. Okay. Is what makes all what makes all the difference in situations. Look at this, in situations like this. I don't even know what's going. I don't even know what's happening. See, you don't know what's happening. And look at you sitting there being trying to look at this. This man just did that whole attack. You don't even know what's going on. This man just did a flip into a spin into a force crowd.
My research has made advances.
Yeah, this man's research did make advances. And so because I lost, you know, I'm basically back to the beginning. You know, it's like, dang, you know, you got beat by the computer. The computer beats you like this, you damn sure know that trying to fight against someone that's, you know, understands the game, what are your chances of being able to beat them? And so this is why you play against a computer when you're just a beginner. There's no point in being out there like that. But furthermore, this now you really are able to see what it looks like for other people, what you look like as a beginner to someone who has a real understanding of the game. And you also know where you stand, so you know what it takes to get to get out of here, to you know what it takes. And it just takes a little bit of work here and there. You know, Sophia lost, she's out of the game. Sungmina lost, out of the game. Cassandra's not going to lose. You know, Amy lost earlier, out of the game. Siegfried won effortlessly to the silver medal. I'm pretty sure Keelik would do the same. And so you just play these characters until they get to that point. And when you're able to do this with the majority of the roster, it's at this point where you are truly a Class A jabroni. And that's basically what this episode is really about. And that's a real overview of the fighting types. With Soul Calibur being as long play as it is, you really would do yourself a service by not trying to grind the game out and by playing it as sophisticated up front as you can, because you're going to need as much meter as you can muster in order to remember this game, in order to memorize this game. And again, it's for this reason why it's especially beneficial to learn characters the good old-fashioned route, because I mean, it's like, how much RAM are you really going to rely on when it comes to playing this game? especially up front.
Soul Caliber 6.